But here, look, the ultimate Mac fan loves to brag right now and say, look how many are market share of the iPhone. Well, as soon as it becomes really a marginal difference, that there's so much more Android to the iPhone, then they can't claim that.
Well, you know, that's at the rate Android's outselling iOS, that's only a matter of time. It's like, realistically, that's a year from Christmas at this point.
Oh yeah, but the argument will then be exactly what we're still better. We're still better. You know, see, it's hypocritical, and I always try to correct the Ultimate Mac fans on this, is stop using market share for your support, because Apple will essentially shoot you in the foot, because their business models are not designed to capture market share. They just get their little nudge, and then it maintains, and then you know, and then they resell their products in many regards to their same user base, which is fine, you know. But if you're going to use the market share argument, you're eventually going to get shot in the foot. And then what are you going to do? You're just going to sit there and go, well, we're still better.
Oh, it's like, how do you define better? More users, better, more features, more functionality. How do you define better? That's like
Android is not Microsoft Windows. Android is Linux. So you're not going to have these major issues where Windows had fundamental underpinning flaws that just made it a difficult beast to say, for Windows to defend itself as a very powerful OS. I mean, it won by market share and not by tech features in the long run, and marketed itself because nobody else would. I guarantee if there was another OS player out there that marketed itself as widely on many platforms as Windows did, you probably wouldn't have a Windows-controlled world. But nobody was as...
Well, no, it's like people attack and say, honestly, this is blasphemy, especially on this show. But honestly, if you have to choose who's the bigger visionary, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, I reluctantly have to give that to Bill Gates, because he had the vision to realize it's not about controlling anything, it's about being dominant. Apple came in, they changed the game a little bit, but they were basically cloning the IBM business model with improvements. But they were not changing the game. Microsoft had the vision to come in and see, wait a minute, if we change the game, we win!
Well, they thought modularly, which is where things went, whereas people were thinking in package.
Mm-hmm. And they were the one that got that.
And Apple thought Apple's innovation comes through like the microcosm perspective, and that was very insular, saying, well, we're going to create great technology, but it's not modular. It's not going to be shared across. Except there were quite a few technologies that eventually got licensed out, and obviously nowadays with. But they're still very protective with the patents. So people try to say, "Oh, they took multi-touch and this and that." Well, that's the same mistake that Apple. Since it's patented, it can't be taken from Apple. People just simply see.
Well,
touching it. Let's come up with our own version of doing it.
It's not just that. If we're honest, the multi-touch, the fanboy interpretation of the multi-touch patent is that Apple owns multi-touch. The reality is Apple owns a very unique, tiny, almost obscure implementation of multi-touch, and they do not even own the technology itself. In fact, some of the uses of multi-touch, like in the Magic Mouse and in the iPod wheel and stuff, are technically infringing on somebody else's patent.
Gates deserves a lot of credit for saying, "Hey, it's not about the package.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be able to run here, 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 and here," which is a beautiful idea. It's just it was executed in haste many times. And
it's like
a lot of people come at me and say the registry sucks. Well,
yeah, it does.
It does suck. But it is a brilliant idea executed very poorly.
It really was. It's one of those It was a piece of genius, and it's one of those things a lot of other people began to. It is now the model on which you build something successfully. But they were the ones to do it first. They were the ones to first think outside of that box. Like you said, they executed it poorly, and we're all stuck with the aftermath of it. But that took genius and vision to see that. And that really is a true innovation. You can argue on all the rest of the stuff and the whole Mac versus PC, this is the bastard stepchild, it's not everything else. But that was something Microsoft started doing almost initially. When they started, the way they licensed BASIC, without Microsoft, the Apple II would have never existed, because they went in and created the Apple BASIC. Like, Microsoft got that logic from day one. And that was why the scales are now like they are.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because I will have a video coming up about registries and what goes on in Unix form with p-lists and things like that. And why is a registry? It's like people will say, well, yeah, they always want to math out the registry. Well, I think the idea is fantastic. They just deployed it and completely screwed it up. They never made any rules, so anybody could do whatever the hell they want. They never established any areas and whatsoever. So then, as they built up this application base, legacy is essentially now still hardening what the registry could potentially be until it's all weeded out.
Yeah, but that's one of those, how do you weed it all out and move forward? And it's if there was a chicken and egg argument ever, that's
that was good. I like that.
It's one of those, you almost can't go forward from here without just wiping the slate clean, which will break so much stuff. That's...
It is. Absolutely.
So, yeah. But let's see, how many enemies did we just make, considering we just spoke well of Microsoft?
I call it as a lot, man. I don't care. I'm teaching heat, dude. When I started my videos about licensing iOS 10, I feel like all the major Mac fathers just say, oh, look at MrBit, you gotta unsub from him, he's a traitor, and oh. I got so much hate.
And you know what's so funny about that?
A lot of people listen.
What they always reference to when they say how bad an idea that is. And OS 10 is not my cup of tea, because I don't like. For OS 10 to be my cup of tea, the Unix licensing would need to change, and Apple would need to open up so that things that you can't change. That it's not that you can hack. Change. You can get in there and because it's Unix, you can hack and change them and so on. But they really don't want you to change them, and that mentality would have to change for me to even want to think about living in the OS.
So Cocoa would stop you anything from BSD or the actual kernel itself, and it's going to probably get ignored. It depends, because you'd still have to utilize Cocoa on top.
Well, no, and that's why I chose Linux over OS 10, because Linux doesn't discourage.
Well, yeah, because Cocoa is essentially what GNOME and KDE and all that is. So. Yeah,
except it encourages diversity and find the flavor that fits you. That's rather than this is the one flavor for everyone. And I'm sorry, there's never one flavor for everyone. It's like, and that's the part I just can't get on board with. But shoot, I forget what I was even saying now. It's like no, it's what what licensing. What they reference back there, what they always wind up referencing back is the fact that, once upon a time, Apple licensed the Mac OS, and it was disastrous, and it led to all the Mac clones, and I'm like, look at when they did it, look at what was going on, look at all the other...
people don't ever get it, but I'm telling you, my video series I made, I have 2 of them on licensing iOS 10, and the biggest complaint I got was I was causing a split in the Mac community.
Oh, heaven forbid!
Because it was still Mac versus Windows, and I got so many PMs to stop because I was fracturing the Mac community. You know, those that would side with my licensing and stuff like that ideas. And exactly what you just said. You know, people would say it was done before. I'm sorry, and they'll never understand it. Apple had already failed and was sinking. The ship already had so much water in it.
Yeah.
It was going to sink anyway. The clones was like this attempt to inflate a balloon to try and keep the rest of the ship up. And they actually sold a tremendous amount of Macs. A lot of Macs went out. So the purpose of the program really did help. The problem is they lost billions on inventory, which really didn't have anything to do with the actual clones. Apple at that time could not predict sales. They either made too much of one or too little of another model. And then they had too many models across the board. And there are many analysts that come out and say, well, look at the gross revenue was tremendous. And they didn't capitalize on proper profit margins. But the clones did exactly what they were designed to do. They put out more Macs than you could ever count. It's just, if that would have happened before, Apple let's just say it wasn't a sinking ship. They would have been able to absorb mistakes made with profit margins.
But they would have been able to take those licks and benefit from those errors, and then they would have benefited. Here's the thing. Apple needed to exercise that not in the mid-90s when they did. They needed to do it in 1987 when Windows was still untested and nip it in the butt.
Dude, you need to see my video series. I quote everybody from Woz to Jean-Louis Gasset to all the Apple executives that in hindsight say we should have done it, we should have done it, we should have done it.
Well, and you know what was so funny about that is initially that was what Bill Gates wanted to do. Initially, Microsoft wanted to work with them.
Yes, Windows was created because of Apple's protectionism, from them wanting to be insular. Windows would have never, ever been created had they licensed out. You wouldn't have Windows. It wouldn't exist.
And we'd all be stuck with the one box. Well,
I mean, seriously, because Apple would license out as a package, right?
Right.
IBM would have licensed out as a package. Some would have probably licensed out as a package. Microsoft was the real game changer in saying, there's no package. Here's my software. Put it where you want.
Yeah. It's just the way things changed, and it was the way they went.
Yeah. So you want to call it? It's 2 hours.
Yeah. I think we should call it there, man. Like,
I had some emails coming in actually from my audit. I got sidetracked while we were in the show trying to read, so I apologize for that.
No, it's like, and this one's going to be fun to edit because there's some parts here I don't know what's going on there. Okay, that's iWorld 6 and two people ranting about Apple being, well, that's like the first sadist of the Church of Apple excommunicated. And I guess I'd be technically the sinner because I've never converted. It's like I turned away early. It's like I sought to flee the church in the beginning. It's like, all right, peace out all.